Hi lovelies, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be creating this beautiful dress you see right here on your screen. So it's an asymmetric neckline gown or blouse with a one side twisted shoulder or sleeve with drapes. So I actually recreated this particular one today in a blouse because I already have it in a gown, which is the one you see at the sides that is orange in color. So I didn't want to have this same exact style in a gown, so I recreated mine in a blouse. So this is what I'll be sharing with you right here in today's tutorial, and you can see they both are just the same thing. The difference is just the fabric I use and also the style, which is the gown and the blouse. So if this sounds like something you are interested in learning how to recreate, continue watching and please don't skip any part of this tutorial because that might be the most important part of this tutorial. So without much ado, I'll get started with what we have for today. So in the first part of this tutorial, which was the drafting part, I shared with you all the detailed process on how to draft this beautiful style of dress. So this particular part, which is going to be the second part, is the sewing part. So we actually took our time to give a detailed process on how to go about the drafting of this particular style, and trust me, it's something that is worth watching. I am never going to regret ever doing all of that. So after drafting our pattern paper, I now went ahead to cut out on my fabric. So this is a Duchess fabric and I worked with 2 years of this fabric, though I didn't end up using everything entirely. So for the body part of this our gown, or sorry, our blouse, I added stitching allowance all the way around at that top part. I added my sewing allowance of 1 inch at the both sides, as you can see right here. So the remaining inches of 3 inches, which will complete the actual length of my blouse, I also added to this. Now for the other side of our shoulder or our neckline, you can see that at that top part I added half of an inch, and then on this part where we have our joints, which is our 1A and our 1B and our 2A joints, at that point right there, you are just going to notch so that it's going to be helpful later on while joining. Okay, so you're just going to notch the both parts just this way I'm doing right here. So having done this, now I'm just going to go ahead now to remove this my pattern paper from my fabric. So that notch is actually going to help while assembling all of these pieces. Okay, so now that I've removed my pattern paper, this is what I have right now. So I'm going to weave all these parts, all these rough edges. Okay, so now I also went ahead to remove the pattern paper from my front dress, and this is what I have. So I'll be weaving them as well. So I've gone ahead now to weave all of these parts on my neckline, on the shoulder, then on my body part of my blouse. I also went ahead to weave that part where we cut off our first part of our neckline from, and also the sides of the shoulder. And now this is for the other side of my shoulder. Okay, when I weaved, the notch wasn't well pronounced, so I had to now go ahead to highlight that part very well. So all I'm going to do now is that notch part, or the part where I have these chalk marks, I'll fold this way so that I can join. So I'll just keep this paper aside, and I'm going to do that now on my fabric. So you're going to cover this up this way, right sides facing each other, and make sure that one ends align with the other part of the armhole. So you go ahead now to pin. So after pinning, now I'm going to stitch this down now using half of an inch. Remember all the stitching allowance we left for this while we are cutting out on our fabric, right? So I'm going to mark half of an inch. So I'll stitch with half of an inch, but from that closed end, that is from that notch, I'm going to come in by 3/4 to 1 inch. So I would advise you actually come in by 1 inch. All right, so meaning that I'll stitch and stop exactly on that chalk mark I made right there. Okay, on that point. So I'll go ahead and do this, and this is what I have. I've stitched and stopped exactly on that chalk mark. Now I'll flip this now to the right side of my fabric, and you can see what I have right now. So the next thing is to get the shoulder part of my dress for the other side, this shoulder right here. So I'm going to twist it and now pass it through that little hole that I left while stitching this other part of my shoulder. Okay, so that was the reason for leaving that little space or that little hole. So before you actually go ahead to force your shoulder to pass through this little tiny hole, you have to stitch the armhole, because we are not fixing any sleeve to this part of our armhole. Okay, so on this part, so it skipped my memory, so I had to go and do that before I go ahead to pass this through that other piece of my dress. Okay, so now I've gone ahead now to fold that in, and you can see what I have right now. So I'm good now to actually pass this through that piece. So you're just going to carefully do this. Make sure you're passing the right side of your fabric to that piece, just this way. So when you bring it out, this is what it's going to look like. All right, so you can see what I have right now so far. So after that, now I'm just going to arrange this. Just take your time, arrange this properly so that it's good. Okay, when you arrange this properly and it's okay, you definitely know on your own, right? So the next thing now is to join these two parts, this upper part, this piece right here, to the body part of our dress. So I just measured my armhole for this side and it was okay. So we're going to join this piece now to the body part of our dress. So I'm just going to get that part where I notch, that my notch part. So I'll start pinning from there all the way to my armhole. Okay, so that is where I'm going to stitch from this my armhole to that part where I notched. All right, so it was visible right here. So if you watch properly, you still see that chalk mark I made. So make sure that you stitch only these two parts. Don't add it up to the body part or any other part, just the parts where we left that stitching allowance. So stitch and stop exactly on that chalk mark or your notch. So that was the essence of the whole notch and all of that. So now I'll go ahead and do that. And for the shoulder as well, I'm going to letter hem everything, but for now let's just stitch that part. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to do that, and you can see what I have right now. So this is coming out, the shape is actually coming out. So on that neckline area, please just go ahead and use a hemming gum to hem as much as possible, just the way I'm doing right here. So fix your hemming gum at the wrong side of your fabric and iron it out. So this is what it's going to look like. So the next is to fix our back dress to the front dress. So I'm going to join them at the shoulder first. So the back shoulder is normal, so I didn't slash, I didn't spread this out, so it's just normal, meaning that I'll be pleating the front part of our shoulder to the back part of our shoulder, right? So for the shoulder of your back on the armhole, for that part that will not have any sleeve attached to it, you're also meant to fold the armhole area. Okay, or you can pipe it as well. So just make sure that you just get rid of those rough edges. Okay, so I haven't done it yet here, but I'll do this later. So as I'm now going to join my two shoulders together, I have to stitch this my back armhole before I go ahead to join this together. So I'll just pin this so that I'll just show you all what I want to do before I go ahead and do all of that behind the camera. Okay, so when you pleat your two shoulders at both ends, you have these SS's in front, so that's the essence. So those SS's, you're going to pleat it on your back shoulder. Okay, so because that is the actual size of our shoulder, so the back shoulder is serving as our guide to how we pleat and all of that. So you now pleat those SS's you have for your front shoulder on the back part of your shoulder. Okay, and stitch. So having done that, now I'm going to arrange this my dress at the sides. I'll arrange it properly and also arrange the shoulder area. So having arranged this, now I'm going to start joining the shoulder. Okay, I'll stitch the shoulder using 1/2 inch, and I'll get the other piece of my back blouse, and I'll also place it on this shoulder. So you can see that this shoulder now is normal. Okay, so we don't have to pleat, I mean for the front part we don't have to pleat, so it's normal, it's 100% normal. Okay, so make sure that you actually hem your neckline before you go ahead to join your two shoulders, because I'll still unpin all of this behind the camera and iron this very well and hem all the parts I asked you to hem before I go ahead to do my joinings. Okay, so I'm just showing you all the illustration of everything which I'll be doing. Okay, so now you also fix your zipper at this point, fix your zipper to the back part of your dress, and now join the front part and the back part of your blouse or your gown, depending on what you're making this into, to the very end. So I marked 1 inch stitching allowance, which I gave this while I was drafting. So stitch both sides. So I'll do all of that, and right now this is what I have. So you can see I fixed my zipper, I fixed my sleeve. You can fix any sleeve of your choice. I hemmed the neckline and the shoulder. You can see what I, so this is the neckline. I hemmed it, so you see I can't, it can't actually come off easily that way because of the hemming gum I have. So this is it. And then shoulder, this is the pleats I have. So I'll also go ahead to weave the shoulder, and that is just simply it, and I'm done with this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you try this out. So if you're actually making this into a gown, you just have to draft the sketch part of your gown and now attach your half scale basic bodies to the lower part, which is your skirt. So at the end of the day, this is what you're going to have. So will you be recreating yours as a blouse or as a gown? So drop whatever you'll be recreating this into in the comment section, and I'll be glad to see your outcome. Do have a lovely time ahead of you all. Bye.